Vernon, Stubblefield. I am 71 years of age, and currently I work as a dispatcher for the City of Cairo Police Department. I was born in 1953 in the City of Cairo at what was then St. Mary's Hospital. It's now closed, of course. I grew up, my first understanding of where I was at was a place over on the railroad tracks, the other side of the railroad tracks from the housing project. It was a place called Cunningham Bottom. And we lived there until I was about 6 years of age. And then my mother moved us into the housing project. It was called Pyramid Court at that time. Of course, now, since it's been demolished, it was known as McBride Housing Court. So from that particular time, from age 6 years of age until probably 15, we lived in public housing out in Pyramid Court. No, you have to remember that I was probably about 3 or 4 years of age when I was out there, but I think it was just basically an unincorporated area, primarily African American families and individuals who lived out there. Not necessarily any organized housing program or anything. It would be similar to the community of Klondike, probably. Okay, my family. Wow. Well, I'm the eldest of six. I had three brothers and two sisters. My mother died at a young age from childbirth. Actually, when I was 6 years old is when she passed. Father left, so we were sort of kind of in a situation where the state was looking for a family member that would, take us over. Interesting thing for me is the fact that my grandmother, she was a severe alcoholic, and during those days, if you had a problem with alcoholism and you were trying to detox, they'd put you in the sanitarium. They had a tuberculosis sanitarium in Cairo, and that's where she was at when my mother died. And she came out of there, and she took the six of us under her wings, and she raised us until she passed. And I am pleased to say that I never saw her take another drink of hard alcohol from the time she took us until the time she passed.
You saved each other.
Yeah, apparently so. Yes, most definitely. I know that my grandmother came from Arkansas, Osceola, because that's where my mother was born. I have no idea about my grandfather. No, that wasn't something that really came out as we were growing up with my grandmother. Actually, not a lot of people that I came into contact with growing up in the projects talked about the period of enslavement of black people. I'm trying to think. I think more probably was said during the time when we had the civil unrest. But taking note of it, being a teenager, it really sort of kind of went over my head. Well, definitely the youth work program. It was called NYC Neighborhood Youth Corps. And it was part of the federal government's initiative to put youth in poverty communities to work. I started working on that program when I was 14, and really had an opportunity to do some work on it all the way through my, I think my sophomore year of college. So that was one. Of course, the civil unrest, and living in the housing project at the time when that was going on. The For me, one of the things that stood out was that during the day I was at school, and in the evenings my NYC job employment was at the custom house, the police station. So I would leave school and go to the custom house, do the cleaning that I had to do, and then make it over to the projects before dark, before the shooting started, back and forth. In retrospect, I thought that was kind of ironic. I was a sheltered child in the sense that my grandmother was very protective of us. So there were things that were going on that she would not let us, specifically me, since I was the oldest, take part in, to be a part of. And I think that there were a couple of marches that she allowed me to go downtown and be part of the marches, but because of the threat of violence at all times, that was not one of the things. The rallies, the weekly rallies at the Catholic Church, some of them I was able to attend. A lot of them I was not. So I didn't have a major role as far as being active in that particular event, other than the fact that our house in the projects faced the custom house, and we would each morning we get up and go outside and see if we could see where the new nicks were from where the bullets were bouncing off of the bricks. Well, one of the things that we did was we had to sleep on the floor because we were facing that direction. So, that was, if I can, one of the things that I found out as a result of that particular situation was that you become desensitized to a lot of the violence. I can recall a situation where we as youth would be playing in the playgrounds, and as dusk came and the gunfire started, and you could see the tracers beginning to fly. There was no real, how do I say it was like there was no real rush. There was no real urgency to leave the playground. We walked away from it. We didn't go running and ducking for cover because we became so desensitized to it because of the length of it. I don't think that I did. I don't think that a number of those who were my age had a full understanding of the impact of it. There was always the question of why. Why is it that we have to stay here after dark, and why is it that we're being shot at? Why do we have to give these signals to get in or out? And no, we didn't have a full understanding of that. My early years attended St. Columba's Catholic School, and I attended there kindergarten through second grade. That was I enjoyed that period. I don't know if it was so much because of the education, because the nuns were rough. I'll give them credit for that. They had no problems with corporal punishment. But we had little treats that, and there were always tests and games and so forth that made it a little bit more competitive with regards to the learning environment. So that was one aspect of it. The fact that we could walk up the street a couple of blocks and we'd be at school and then walk back home. A little bit later on, moving over the third and fourth grade, the same general community vicinity. Went to Douglas School. Average school days. I think that I was an average student. I don't know. The grades sort of kind of reflected that. But I think my change, and I know you said an average day, and I can't put together just one day. I think the change for me came when after fourth grade is when desegregation of the school systems really kicked in. And we were taken out of Douglas. They closed it down, and we were integrated into the white schools. Some of us were. There were quite a few, who had the opportunity of going to the all-black grade school and then high school. Myself, I was integrated into a school called Lincoln, and that was a fifth and sixth grade. I didn't really have any problems as far as fights and so forth during that time frame. It was fairly well tolerated, I guess you could say. And then after that, of course, junior high school was integrated, Carroll Junior High School for me. Whereas a number of my friends went over to Washington Junior High School, which was still black, African American. And from the junior high school, of course, to the high school. So graduation, SIU, college. Yeah.
Did you have other ideas after graduation?
No, graduation, I had this belief that I could return to Carroll as an educator, that I would get into the system and try to work with students to the best of my abilities. Yeah. Neighborhood. It was a community during childhood and younger years. That's one of the things that anytime I talk about it, I tell people, we didn't know we were poor, because of the fact that the interactions between individuals. It was one of the communities where everybody in the community and everybody along the way knew who you were, knew whose child you were, and if you acted up, they were going to get into, they had the right to discipline you and then get in touch with your parent or guardian, and you got another disciplining when you got home. So, people think that is a fallacy, but that's the way it really was. We were the epitome of a village, within the community. As younger children, I mean, we had athletic events, and not all of them were in the playground area. We had a common area in public housing where we would have track meets or acrobatic competitions, or we do kickball and whatever. We had a lot of outdoor activities that we did when we were children. And even in the playground, I mean, we would have baseball, football, and going on at the same time, basketball on the little basketball court. We made the made the most of the playground area. One of the things that we had was public housing had what they called a shower system, where during the summers when it was warm, they'd turn on the showers, but that was always the treat whenever we could get over there. But like I said, my grandmother, she was very protective, so I didn't always get to go where I wanted to go. Well, of course, schooling it was initially, but for example, places like in the downtown area, we would. My grandmother would take us downtown. I felt it was like about once a month, probably when she got her check was when it was, but we would go down to the hamburger wagon and we get burgers, or we would go to like P and Hirsch, which was the clothing store. I guess it was the Walmart of the day at that time, and that's where we got our school clothes and what have you. Just other locations, like I said, I had I had a really sheltered environment there because of that, because of who she was in bringing us up. Later on, of course, it was a church, being involved in the church. First Missionary Baptist on 12th and what is Martin Luther King now. It was 12th and Walnut. So there was quite a bit of church involvement as I got older into my teen years. Oh, extremely important. Once I got into church, I found that it was a life in and of itself, because at that particular time there were so many youth activities and programs that were going on through that ministry. We had trainings, we had there were conferences, picnics, outings. So we had, and of course, just the activities that within the church ministry that they had us involved in. The youth choir, the training sessions, the Sunday school. So, it was unusual for me to spend 4 or 5, nights or days at church, just going back and forth.
Did the churches interact with each other?
They did more so in what is called a district than just within the city, because our church at that particular time was part of what's called Zion District, and that was a collaboration of churches from Carbondale, Murfreesboro, the lower area down here, Mound City, Cairo. I don't recall celebrating Juneteenth. Actually, with my family, I don't recall celebrating any fully African American related programs or celebrations or recognitions. Now, Ward Chapel, of course, was for us one of the founding ministries with regards to the civil rights movement in Cairo. St. Columbus, of course, where I went to school, the Catholic Church, even after it closed, it was a center for the civil rights movement in Cairo. But also, even after that, with Ward Chapel, we did Vacation Bible School. To me, that was important because even though it was AME Church, the Vacation Bible School was non-denominational. It was whosoever wanted to send their children could send their children, and we would. I was blessed to be able to be a part of helping to facilitate that for a number of years. And we would have in excess of 100 students, who would attend Vacation Bible School during the course of a week. That was annual, yes. I remember when Jesse Jackson came through, and in later life when Bill Clinton came through. We had our own local people, Charles Corn, and the members of the United Front. So I remember when they basically came through marching and what have you. As far as involvement, deeper involvement, no, I didn't have a deeper involvement. Yeah.
The clubs,
You mean
the black businesses.
yeah, well, yeah. We had some. We had barbers all over town. We had. I'm trying to think how do you put it? Cafes, really. One of the major ones for me was called Babe May's Cafe, and that was located right on between 12th and 13th Street on Martin Luther King. And they would barbecue. They would cook. They would cook pies and dinners. And Sunday, you could go in and buy a Sunday meal, or we could go in. She had a I said a jukebox. My goodness, that's what it was. And we could go in, for a quarter, you get your songs, however many a quarter would get you. We could play pinball because she had a couple of pinball machines in there. So it was sort of kind of like a little hangout there. We had the black taxi cab, the hotels up on 34th Street, I believe it was. They had the club, the Pythian Club. I'm trying to think. I know the Cavalier Club. 4th Street, down on 4th Street was Stella Mays. Yeah, those black hotel. The Wades ran the hotel uptown. Okay. Of course, I was a little bit too young to go hanging around some of these places. And there were other places, Booker's Restaurant, a cafe on the corner of I think that was 23rd and Poplar. And I don't recall the one across the street from me. I never did hang out up there a whole lot. The Gym Theater, they allowed us to come in. I went just a couple of times. It was to view a couple of the exploitation movies. I don't remember which ones. But it was during the period of the exploitation movies. There's been quite a bit of change. Like I said, Carroll has been a very segregated community for a long time. Actually, it was segregated prior to the schools being desegregated, and even after the schools were desegregated, that didn't fully blossom. The white community created Camelot school system. I think it tried to start it off as a parochial, but it was basically for white students. There were no black students who went to Camelot. and those parents, those white parents that didn't want to send their children to Camelot, sent them over to either the Catholic or the other schools over in Cape or over schools over in Kentucky. So there was a clear segregation of the races in Cairo. You know, where's a line you don't cross here or there or something. Gee, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think because it didn't impact me as much as it did others. But when you reach that 24th Street divide where the swimming pool was, there was separation, there was segregation there because, of course, as African American individuals, we were not allowed the privilege of going into the swimming pool area. Well, one thing, even though there was some black and white separation in the community, there was still also some black and black separation in communities. For example, you had the uptown community where those individuals who lived uptown basically had their own cliques and groups, and you had us downtown where we had our own also. And sometimes the two didn't get along very well. So, with that being said, Box Field down on the side downtown where McBride, where the housing projects was one of the places where we tended to gather baseball and what have you. Uptown, there was a park up in the area where Bungee's is now, where actually baseball, Pony League baseball was played up there. And we didn't do a whole lot with the city park, St. Mary's Park. You know, that was looked upon to be primarily as a white park. And so therefore we didn't do a whole lot of activities up in that park. We tended to stay more or less within the communities, the boundaries of the communities where we were at, either uptown or downtown. Oh, I mean, as far as school, students, especially I didn't go to Sumner, so but I know that there were a significant number of individuals from both out of the housing project downtown and out of the communities uptown who did go. So there was that socializing, the intermingling, and so forth. But when you're saying, if you're talking overall, the city of Cairo, there was a fragmentation, like I said, based upon where you lived at. But at the same time, socialization was fairly good because the clubs were located, well, not all of them, but a couple of them were located outside of either of the communities. They were on like the Cavalier Club on Commercial. 4th Street was on Commercial down at 4th Street. So people got together in those locations. The Pythian Club was on Douglas. I think it was Douglas and Commercial. So when it came to socialization, yeah, there was that. I don't want to say tolerance, but there was that acceptance. Okay, but in other areas, it was like how do we put it? Community uptown. The uptown had its own neighborhoods and communities, and they did their own thing. And down in McBride, we had ours, and we did our own. Even to the point where even within the public housing structure, there were differences. We used to jokingly say, I used to tell Don all the time, Patton, that because they lived over in the first 100 row, the 100 row of the housing project, that they were in the upper echelon of the housing project, and we were in the 800 row, so we were in the poorer portion of the, so we had, but I mean, people did in their mind look at those as being distinctions, even within the public housing. Mm, um, as an adult, um, first of all, I credit the school system in Cairo for giving me a well-rounded education at a time when it would have been very easy for that not to have happened because of the segregation and because of the other issues and so forth that have gone on. I've seen some things, and I'm glad that me personally, I'm glad I was able to go through the integration process because we don't get to grow until we get to know who other people that are around us are. And coming into the junior high school, coming into the elementary school at fifth grade and coming into junior high and high school, there were those opportunities to develop some of those relationships to even where today there are some of those individuals who've moved on and who've done some things that if I need to reach out to them, I can reach out to them. In the high school, the 4 years of high school, I was a member of the football team, not a star. But one of the things that we found as a member of the football team, and really the other athletics during that time period, is that because of the civil unrest that had occurred in Cairo and the perception outside of our community that we had schools that did not want to come into Cairo to play us. So from my freshman year to my senior year, we played all of our football games on the road. We didn't have any local football games. And that to me, that was something that it just gave me a clear picture of human nature and how people's perceptions will guide them, whether there's a basis to those perceptions or not. Uh, I was a I'm a product of the foster care system. And as a result of being a product of the foster care system, that afforded me the opportunity to avoid the draft for the Vietnamese War and go and get a 4-year college education. Something that I probably would not have gotten, otherwise if there hadn't have been those avenues before me. As far as living in this community, I've had a couple of very good jobs in this community. I've worked convenient food as management. I've worked chief probation officer within this community. I met my first wife in this community and divorced my first wife, but we ain't gonna get into that. I had the opportunity to leave and work elsewhere, and yet still to come back. I worked in the through the health clinic. I worked to do substance abuse prevention, violence prevention, social and life skills building. Those have been some of the things that I've had the opportunity to do. So I feel that the community has, whereas I've benefited the community, I feel that the community has benefited me. I don't feel that that I've had a valueless life in Carroll. I feel that I've been able to accomplish some things through the work that I've been able to do. As its changes have affected it, I think that one of the things that is affected the community in the sense that it has desensitized the community. That I think that it has put us in a position where there are certain values that we've had before that we've lost that we no longer uphold. I think education is one of those. I think community pride is another. I don't think that we have that within here. Even to the point of socialization, we don't socialize in this community like we did in the past. Most of the socialization you see in Carroll at this particular time is a group of cars around the car wash in the middle of the night. At one point, it was a group of individuals who were hanging up on a tree along the highway. So I think that that's how we've changed it. We've become less cohesive as a community, as people. We tend to do our own individual thing. Yeah, yeah. We didn't get into the civil unrest a lot because that's not what this is about, and I'm glad of that. But I think that's one event that I can't really get too far away from because we did go through it. There was the possibility of loss of life. There was and is still the stigma that the community placed on us, telling us that we were lesser human beings as a result of it. So I think that's one of the events that still stands out. I'm trying to think places in Carroll. Definitely the school system and the churches. My church has been involved in some of the major events in Carroll for a number of decades. We were involved initially in what was called the One Church, One Child initiative, and that was about getting members in the local churches to adopt foster children or to adopt children who were being backlogged in the Department of Children and Family Services program. So that was one of the things that was significant coming through our church system. The other,
your church, what church are you talking about?
actually, it's First Missionary Baptist Church at that time. This church here, Harvest, is a hybrid. We've basically evolved and just more or less just changed the name, but it's still the same church even though we're not in the same location. We still have the same history. And we were also involved significantly in the civil rights movement as a center for the United Front. And Dr. Cohen when he was alive. So, like I said, that was at a time that happened. It initiated at a time when I was more or less early teens. Of course, the given reason was the lynching of the young man after he came back from the military. But also, it was mentioned that there was a desire to have increased hiring of African American individuals in the businesses in Carroll. But I think just the foundation of it really was the fact that there were individuals in power who had racist attitudes who really did not have a respect for black people. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had so many of your political leaders here in the community as part of the aggressors during that time period. So I think that was really the foundation of it. I don't think there was a whole lot of difference because I think most of the individuals, the ones when I think back, male and female, I think they basically had menial jobs. They were housekeepers or they were butlers or, they were waiters or there weren't, outside of the, maybe the educational system, there weren't a whole lot of higher level jobs. It was, menial work. The majority of it was no offense meant. I don't know what my doctor looked like. There were some, yes, but there were only a couple. There weren't a whole lot. Hugo Chambliss was one of the major ones during the time of when I was growing up in the community that most of the black families relied on for medical services. No, the hospital wasn't segregated. No, anybody and everybody. Yeah. Oh, interesting question. What are my hopes for Carroll's future? Stability is one. I hope that at some point we can get an administration in this community that will not be looking at what it can get out of the community, but what it can do in order to stabilize this community. Carroll has a rich history, and it has natural resources. When businesses are looking for a place to develop, they're looking at what your resources are. Okay, we have access to interstate, we have access to air, river, and rail. We have all of those. Okay, we have land in the community. Of course, Carroll would have to go beyond that structure north of Carroll. But there is potential for the growth of this community. Okay. I think that and like I said, just that it would become stable, that it would become a community that has its people at its heart, that the community could become one where there would be pride reinstilled within it, that people would learn how to work cohesively, to motivate and to to elevate the community. Yeah, there are some things that I'd like to see. I'd like to see less drug dealing within the community. I'd like to see a higher a level a push for higher academics within the community. I'd like to see a community. I'd like to see people take pride and want to clean up the community because we have people who trash and toss trash anywhere that they can. We have abandoned vehicles. We have just the whole disregard for where you live at and making it a safe and a clean place to reside in. So those are some of the things that I'd love to see changed in the community. A jewel in the rough. Oh, I'm sure there is, and it'll come to me as I'm driving down the road, and I'll kick myself and say I should have said this or I should have said that. I think Don asked me if I would sit down and do this here, and I told him, my memory is such. But as I sit down and I'm talking to you all, I realize that the actual exposure that I had in this community, it was limited. It was encapsulated primarily within the community where I lived at, the public housing community. So there were a whole lot of things going on outside of the scope of where I was that I missed out on. But at the same time, I don't regret that because it was still a great life. We got out, we played stickball, we rode our bikes, we had imitation games that we made up and so forth. So we had a lively environment. I tell people all the time when they ask me what was it like growing up in Carroll, I said, well, we didn't know we were poor. That everything that walked, crawled, creeped, or flew past our door, we probably killed and ate it. But that was, that's where we grew up. The environment that we grew up in, knowing what we were doing. We had men in the community who cared about who cared about youth and worked with the youth. And they were present. It doesn't mean that every family had a husband, but there were men who were willing to work with us in the community. One gentleman was his name was Abraham Jones Sr. And because where I lived at in public housing, he lived in the row right across from us, more or less. And he was the one that would pick me up every Sunday morning and take me to Sunday school. And he kept me in church. Mother Ruth, what is Mother Ruth's last name? Allen? Mother Ruth Allen. She's the one that would come and tell my grandmother on Wednesday nights or Thursday nights, I'm going to church and I'm taking your grandson with me. So whether I wanted to go or not, I went to church. So I got introduced one way or the other. And there were ministers. My first pastor, Sherman Jones, believed in Christian education. He believed in Christian education of youth. So he was always looking for conferences and training opportunities to take us to or to send us to. So just in early on, those were some of the individuals. And she was.
She.
That's your first wife?
No. Should have been. We're not calling names. No, we don't call.
Okay.
We don't call names. I really had a great time in high school. I'll tell you, a person you asked about, a significant person, Helen Adams. I think she was the dean of students. I think that was her title. And I was entering into my sophomore. I was in my sophomore year, and I was goofing off like most freshmen and sophomores. And she pulled me aside in the class, and she basically read me the riot act and said, "You know, you have the ability to be intelligent and to make something of yourself, and to do something to make the black community proud. And I want you to march down there and tell them to put you in English 4, so that you could be on a college track instead of vocational track." And I did that. And as a result of that, some things worked out. And like I said, I was able to go to college. But if she had not have yanked my chain at that time, Edward Wojnarowski was the caseworker for Department of Children and Family Services. And he's the individual who helped to get me, get my scholarship through the Department of Children and Family Services to SIU. And of course, I remember at the end of my sophomore year, I don't know what happens at the sophomore year, but at the end of my sophomore year at SIU, I was sort of kind of one leg and an arm out the door. And he came and he read me the riot act, and he said basically the same thing. We're funding this here so that you can get an education and move forward to be able to accomplish some things for yourself. And if you don't get your act together, I'm going to come up here and I'll put my foot in your butt. He actually said that too. But it worked because I got on the dean's list the next quarter. So I just need to have my chain yanked a couple of times.